It's time for a Big Blue Kickoff Live.
Nobody can ever tell you that you couldn't do it, because you did.
On Giants.com.
You know what I saw? New York Giant pride.
And the Giants mobile app.
17-14 is the final. One touchdown, we are world champions. Believe it, and it will happen.
Part of the Giants Podcast Network.
Let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs, have some fun.
Welcome into today's episode of Big Blue Kickoff Live, presented by Cadillac, the official luxury vehicle of the New York Football Giants. My name is Madelyn Burke, alongside the Super Bowl champion Shaun O'Hare. The phone number here is 201-939-4513, or you can join the conversation on social media using hashtag GiantsChat. And just a reminder, an archive of this show and our entire podcast network is available on the Giants mobile app, podcast platforms everywhere, and giants.com/podcast. It's Wednesday, October 15th. Thanks for joining us from the Giants Podcast Studio, presented by Hackensack Meridian Health. Keep getting better. Shaun, I feel like it's been so many days since we've been in this studio. The Giants getting a win on Thursday. We had a whole weekend. I know, the guys have been talking about this on Monday and Tuesday on BBK, but How was your weekend? Go War Eagles.
This has been like the best weekend ever.
Yeah.
The best week, really. We were here 7 days ago. A lot has transpired in those 6 days. Giants got a huge win, obviously, and it felt like a double win anytime you beat the Birds. Mm-hmm. I can't remember the last time that the Giants physically just hammered the Eagles like that. It was a physical, dominant win. And then we also got to watch the Cowboys lose. We got to watch Washington lose. So I think that's, basically, that it couldn't have gone any better. My son's team won. The Franklin Lakes War Eagles got a big win against undefeated Mawa, so that was awesome. Got to play a little golf with my boy Marshall McLean.
Love it.
And, it was a holiday weekend, Columbus Day on Monday. So I feel like we've been celebrating. This is the longest I feel like we've celebrated a win in a long time. So I think it's okay for us to do it. I know the team has been back to work, and you got to flush the losses just as quick as the wins.
Yeah.
So I know that they're back to work, and they better be, because they got a big challenge coming up this week.
I will say, though, this win feels different for myriad reasons. Number one, like you mentioned, it was over the Eagles, coming off of last season where the Giants went 0-6 in the division. It's important to get a division win. Number
and they're the
two,
defending Super Bowl champs.
The defending Super Bowl champs. And number three, the fact that they did it on prime time. When you Jackson Dart, his first start, getting the win over the previously undefeated Chargers was a great win, but that was a 1:00 game. There were so many other games going on. The NFL world's attention was divided. Doing this where the entire NFL world had their eyes on the Giants, and for several days afterwards, anytime I opened the internet, the entire zeitgeist was flooded with Cam Scattaboo and Jackson Dart and the Giants and, shirtless bros on the post-game set on the prime show.
The memes are out of control right now.
The memes are out of control.
It's like Step Brothers.
Somebody sent me a video of Scattaboo's older brother doing a news hit 10 years ago, talking about how, Leonard is great, but his younger brother, Cam, he's going to be a great running back because he's athletic, which Leonard is not. And I'm just like, Leonard Scattaboo catching strays on a weekend.
That's awesome. Yeah. It definitely, it feels like, we talked about on the postgame show, like these are the new kings of New York, Scattaboo and Dart. They're everywhere. And I'll be honest with you, the Giants swag, like the paraphernalia and the clothes, they're out. Like people are dusting them off a little bit. You're seeing everybody's waving the big blue flag, and it's been great. And I can't tell you how many people come up to me like, I love these young kids.
Yeah.
And they're talking about them like they're like their own kids. They're like, these kids are great. They're so much fun. We love playing. And they're right. Like, football is fun. It's fun when you have guys that are making plays, and this offense has an identity. They've got the hammer in Cam Scattaboo. Jackson Dart is making plays with his legs and his arm, and we got points again too. So that's all leading to fun football, and it's been fun for fans to be kind of engaged again. And to your point, it's like they won the game, and we see the future.
Yeah,
I think that's a big part of this. Hey, you know what? All right, Giants football is back. And the defense is playing lights out too. We can't leave them out of this equation. And
it's translating in a way that the fans and the outside world sees the future. Because I've talked to a lot of players who are like, this is the team that we know we've had. We just haven't been able to get it there. And especially this season, going all the way back to training camp. And, some players have said, yes, the quarterback change has helped. It's really kind of sparked the offense, but it sparked both sides of the ball because, as you mentioned, the offense is doing things. When you're on the defensive side of the ball, some of the worst words you can hear are punt team, get ready. You're like, wait a minute, I just got to the sideline. We're getting ready to go back in again.
Can I finish my Gatorade before I got to go back out for a 12-play drive?
I got to tie my shoes. So the balance of the effectiveness of the offense, being able to stay on the field, elongate drives, giving the defense a minute to gather themselves, and just kind of that complementary football that this team's been able to play. Getting a win over the Eagles is incredible. And then, of course, we're facing the Eagles again in 2 weeks. You've got a tough contest coming up this weekend against the Denver Broncos, who are coming back from London, from the UK. So that travel is going to be tricky versus a Giants team that's a bit more rested. But again, this is a Broncos team that leads the league in sacks. Jackson Dart is going to be preparing for pressure here. I feel like when you look at these next 2 games, I asked somebody this yesterday, if you could have your druthers of getting a win over either the Broncos and going back-to-back wins for the Giants, or the Eagles and saying we swept Philly this season, which win would be more impactful?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be Philly because we're already behind the 8 ball from a divisional standpoint. So, when you look at the leading right now, we're 1-2 in the division. So now all of a sudden beat Philly and go 2-2 in the division. That would be huge. Obviously, look, you'll take a win any way you can get it. Yeah. But I think the divisional wins definitely they matter most right now.
Yeah, they move the needle more. Too,
Washington's only played 1 divisional game, and that was against the Giants, and so they're 1-0. So there are a lot of divisional games that are kind of in the back half. Looking at the last 4 games of the Giants season, they played Washington Commanders on December 14th and then Dallas on January 4th. So it's ironic. They only have 2 of their last – oh, man. Actually, you look – they have 3 divisional games left. They play Philly next week, and then they don't have another divisional game until December. So with only 2 divisional games in that last month, it's interesting. Usually there's a little bit more as the season kind of winds down. So it's a good position to be in. But to your point, like if you're going to play Denver in Denver, this is the time to do it. It's ironic because usually when teams play in London or in Germany overseas, they have the option of taking the bye week right after that game. So they're not flying back, having that extra travel time, like you said.
A little jet
and
lag.
Having a game. So they opted not to take their bye week. Denver's bye week is in week 12, but they're flying back from after, it was pretty one-sided. As much as the game was still a little bit close at the end, but they're coming back from London after a big victory, and then as a 4:00 game against a team that is coming off a 10 days rest. I'm sure they're using that as motivation. Like, they're not happy with that schedule aspect, but this is gonna be a tough game. I've played in Denver before.
Yeah.
Denver has different challenges. Obviously, the altitude is a big factor. If you've never played there, you feel like you can't catch your breath, and the altitude definitely plays a factor in that. So, once you get there and you get out and you start warming up a little bit, you kind of feel your heart racing a little bit more than it normally is, and you kind of feel like, man, I'm kind of gasping for air a little bit. It takes your body a little while to adjust to that. So there's that factor. The crowd is a huge factor. The noise there, I'm telling you, 3rd down in Denver, it's electric. And this defense is feeding off of that. So this is a really good challenge for this Giants offense. They're going to be in the silent count the whole game. They've got a phenomenal pass rush right now. They are getting home. Jonathan Cooper, I think he's got 6 sacks. Benito, Nick Benito,
8.
Has 8 sacks. They're doing a great job getting after the quarterback, and they've got a lockdown corner in Patrick Surtain. He was the Defensive Player of the Year last year. So this is going to be a really good litmus test for this offense.
Yeah, it's going to be a great one. And, the Giants defense, no slouch also. Brian Burns already has 7 sacks on the season. But going back to the task of kind of protecting against this Broncos pass rush and this Broncos defense, the Giants offensive line Thursday night, incredible work. Jermaine Illuminor said recently he's been waiting his entire career to play with a quarterback like Jackson Dart. And he clarified those comments saying, it's not that he hasn't played with talented quarterbacks, because he has. Lamar Jackson, Tom Brady, some of the best in the game. It's more of just like the unwavering confidence that he sees from Dart, and the talking about just how much this line just respects and wants to protect this young rookie quarterback. As a lineman, do you feel that, like, obviously you want to do your job and protect whoever's behind you, but sometimes when there's a player who inspires you a little bit more, you're like, all right, let's give it a little extra.
Yeah, I don't think it's shade on any other quarterback.
Of course not,
I think this is a compliment to Jackson Dart, and in that fact that as a rookie, and he's only played a couple of games, he's already making an impact on the field, but also in the huddle and in the locker room. I've always said, in order for a quarterback to win a game on the field, you've got to win the locker room over first.
Yeah.
And you got to win the huddle. And those are two components that not every quarterback is trained in how to navigate that. All of the reports of Jackson Dart coming out of college were his teammates on both sides of the ball love the kid. Like they love that, he's got this feistiness to him, this competitive edge, and he's got a little juice. I mean, there's been a lot of adjectives to describe it. He's got some swagger, he's got some moxie, he's got some juice. Look, he's spunky, and I know you like your oatmeal lumpy, but he's got that factor that you're always looking for in a leader and in a guy that's going to come into the huddle and everybody looks at him and they're like, we can do this, we got this. Yeah. And as an offensive lineman, the one thing that you love about Jackson Dart is, man, he can get out of trouble. And we saw that on third down against the Eagles. The pocket collapsed. He kind of bounced around. He, hit Zach Bond with the shake and bake, a little stanky leg, and scooted right around him. And all of a sudden now it's like, okay, we've got a guy that can kind of play above the X and O's. He can ad-lib, and he can make everybody look better. And it doesn't have to be by design, and he does a great job. Look, if you get pressure, all of a sudden you got an unblocked guy, he can make a play with his legs, and that burns the defense. Right. And it forces them into, look, now we're scared to blitz because he hurt us with it. So I think that is an added element. Look, Daniel Jones could scramble and could run, but it was it felt more like it had to be a designed run. It wasn't as creative and just, hey, make stuff up on the fly like Jackson Dart seems to be able to do. So I think what we've also seen is, like, Jackson has corrected things week in and week out. Yes. Right? So his first game, everybody's like, you got to start sliding. Go down to New Orleans, boom, first couple of scrambles, he slides. It's like, okay, he's able to fix things. He's able to kind of adjust his game in play. And then, the turnovers reared their ugly head in New Orleans. And then all of a sudden you come back against Philly, and now, man, he's making sure he's taking care of the football. Like, he's not putting the ball in jeopardy on some throws. I'm going to tuck it and run it if I don't like it, if it's dicey. And then when I do run, I'm going to protect the football. Well, and being able to, number one, be confident in your decision-making, and number two, be able to say, okay, that happened. That was not my best. And instead of letting that define me and set this tone for where I am now, I'm going to learn from that and correct it. Whether it's New Orleans or, I brought this up last night. I joined the New York Revival guys for their podcast, which is a lot of fun. And I brought up that, you remember training camp, the very first pass Jackson Dart threw was an interception. And all of a sudden the internet was ablaze with, what is this? Who's this guy? This is the, Yeah. Okay, what? He throws one pick on the first play, but that's what you do. You learn from it. You understand that, okay, now when I see this coverage, this is what I'm going to look for, and evolve. And Jackson Dart has consistently, yes, we all make mistakes. We all have missteps. We all have moments in which we're like, oh, I could have done that better. But Dart has grown from that, learned from that, and not let that affect his own confidence and belief in his own preparation. Yeah, and I think when you draft guys, there are things that you say, hey, you know what? We can coach them to help them improve in this aspect or in this category or in this certain scenario. There are things that Jackson Dart is doing right now and that he can do that are not coachable. Those are things that you either have them or you don't. Like, when you wake up and get out of bed, you either have those characteristics or you don't. Yeah. And those are the things that I know Brian Dable fell in love with watching him. I know Joe Shane was a big fan of watching him down at Ole Miss. Those are the things that when you go watch him live in person and you're scouting a guy and you see it, it's like, you know what, this dude's just got it. Like, it's the it factor. And you know it when you see it. You know it when a guy's got it. And guess what? The teammates, the huddle, the locker room, they know it when they see it as well. So I think that, to your point, it resonates on both sides of the ball. And look, ever since Jackson Dart started taking the number one quarterback snaps, this defense has come alive. And they're feeding off of that energy. They're feeding off of it. And 3 games in a row now scored an opening drive touchdown. Yeah. Like that's
Something this
absolutely
Giants team has struggled
a
with
factor
for years.
in how your defense feeds off of you. So
Yeah.
keep it rolling. They're going to need it.
Keep it rolling. Giants fans, make sure you go and subscribe to the Giants Huddle podcast. It features long-form interviews with Giants players, coaches, and front office staff, past and present. Plus, you'll hear from the best analysts covering Big Blue and the NFL.
That's us.
That's us. Shout out to us. Search for Giants Huddle and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform or go to giants.com/podcasts. And don't forget, if you are on Apple Podcasts, leave a 5-star positive review for all of our Giants podcasts. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. The phone lines are lighting up. Apologies to all of you guys for our slight delay today, but let's head to line 1. Kevin in North Carolina. Kevin, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Hey, how you guys doing? Can you guys hear me?
We can. Are you in a wind tunnel or on a beach?
No, I'm just driving, and I have my Bluetooth on in the car, and I have the AC on because the weather's really hot here today. But I just had 2 quick questions to ask, and then my kind of keys to victory for this weekend.
Okay.
Starting with the keys to victory, I think, offensively, I think it's, taking care of the ball. We don't want a repeat of, what happened in the Saints game with those 5 turnovers. So definitely got to take care of the football, as well as, I think we got to keep running the ball with Scadaboo and, getting Tracy back in the mix now, too, to kind of, establishing that run game and not, leaving everything, on Jackson Dart's shoulder, kind of setting up that play action as well. And I think, defensively, continuing to get, pressure after the quarterback. I think, we've done a really good job of that. I would really like to see Abdul, Carter get his first full sack. He just has that half sack on the season. And, Dexter Lawrence as well. And I think, they have a really good chance this weekend with Denver missing their center and their guard Powers. I think he's the right guard, I believe. So, I think this could be a get-right game for Dexter Lawrence. And then my 2 quick questions that I had was, one question, the first one is, what do you guys think about, obviously, losing Neighbors is tough here, but, with the trade, if the Giants can win, the next couple games, we're only a couple games back in the division, how aggressive would you guys be in making a trade to get, a second, that number 2 guy, even when Neighbors comes back next year, to give away, like a 3rd or 4th round pick to, go ahead and get someone before the deadline? What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's a great observation. Obviously, you do want to go and get, some more depth, because while Malik Neighbors is out, you need somebody to fill that void. But also when he does come back, an ACL, it's not like you just hop right back into the spot. And yes, when Malik Neighbors is back, you will resume his rightful spot at the top of the depth chart there, of course. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants pursued some wide receiver help there.
Yeah, Kevin, appreciate the call from the walkie-talkie. Over and out.
10-4 rubber ducky. Hey, listen,
Kevin,
I get it. It's hot in North Carolina. You got to do what you got to do.
No, we appreciate the call.
Thank you.
And we appreciate you using Bluetooth while you're driving. Better safe than sorry, for sure. Kevin, I think it's definitely a conversation they're having upstairs. Like, what are our options, number one? And, anytime you have a receiver like Malik Neighbors go down, you automatically start looking like, okay, hey, who's available? Like, you start calling teams. Hey, what are you thinking about this guy? Are you interested in moving him? Would it be a conversation if we wanted to get there? So you start kind of putting your toe in the water and just feeling the temperature. You mentioned giving up a 3rd or 4th round pick. If I'm Joe Shane, I don't want to do that. I don't want to give up a 3rd round pick, because this wide receiver core, like, you're going to have to build it for the future through the draft. You can't continue to just, hey, sign free agents. And the one thing that would be challenging is if you give up a 3rd or 4th round pick for a guy and he only has 1 year left on his deal, now you either have to pay him or you just threw that draft pick out the window and a year later he's a free agent. So
right.
Those are all things you've got to kind of factor into that. And then to your point, you bring a guy in, and how many weeks does it take for him to acclimate and figure out the offense? Is he in training wheels for the first couple of weeks? So I think when Neighbors went down, it was like, okay, Slayton, Hyatt, little Jordan Humphreys has gotten a lot more action. I think it was, hey, look, let's try to find out if we can sustain this from within. Then Slayton goes down. So I don't know how serious Slayton's hamstring injury is, but that injury compounded with Malik Neighbors, I'm sure kind of drove some of the conversation of, hey, what are we doing? Do we need to take action here? Do we need to bring somebody in? Juice Wells, I know, was here in training camp. So
and he's now been signed to the practice squad. They brought him back there.
I think that's a guy that absolutely, he could be, one of those guys that now you have on the practice squad. And if you need to activate him, look, he was here in training camp. He knows the offense. He played with Jackson Dart in college. So that to me would be a shoe-in guy. But I'm sure they're exploring all those situations. So there are a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah, and addressing the wide receiver position isn't something only to be done through trade, although, yes, there are a lot of trade rumors circulating right now with the November 4th trade deadline kind of nearing. But like you mentioned, Shaun, getting guys from the practice squad, looking within and seeing, we've seen Lil Jordan Humphrey elevated from the practice squad making plays. We saw Jalen Hyatt getting more involved in the last couple of weeks. So players that are already on the roster, I think, is going to be option one for this team, saying, okay, what do we currently have that we can make work while we kind of navigate this period? And then if that is not enough, if that is not sufficing, do we need to go outside and acquire another player? And another question is not just talent-wise and contract-wise, okay, is this person going to be able to pick up the scheme? Is this person going to be able, to be a long-term part of our plan here? But also, when you've got something working, do you change it? Do you add in a new factor? Do you remove a factor? What evolves here? Is it just draft picks? Are there people going in and out? And how does that affect not just the play on the field, but the dynamic of the locker room? So all of these things are going to be considered. Yeah,
it's definitely an evolving conversation too, because I feel like, and maybe this is just me, but every year there's like a position in the NFL that gets hit by the injury bug. I feel like the wide receivers have been getting destroyed right now.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, Malik Neighbors goes down and Tyreek Hill the same week. You look around the league, Mike Evans is out.
Chris Godwin.
Godwin's out. There are receivers dropping like flies left and right. So now all of a sudden, supply and demand becomes a factor here. Giants aren't the only team that are scrambled right now at the wide receiver position.
Steelers looking for one.
Terry
Vikings,
McLaurin's out. CeeDee Lamb is out. Like you look around the league, there's a ton of stud receivers that are down, and so now other teams are in that same predicament. Look, the Giants, who knows? They could have had somebody in the works, and it was like, hey, we're going to give you a 6th-round pick, and then somebody swoops in and says, no, we need him. We're willing to give up more. We'll give you a 5th or a 4th round. So you can get outbid as well right now with the way the NFL is and the way the market is going. Like everybody's scrambling for the same position.
Yeah, we've got YouTube comments coming through. RoseTap87 says, let's trade for DJ Moore. MB Goblin isn't more hurt, yes, injuries have happened. And then Scott Young wants to get Waddle. That kid is one of the best route runners. I mean, there's a lot of conversation around.
Right, and Waddle plays for Miami, so they just lost Tyreek Hill. So, they're not looking to get rid of him. And
unless
DJ
they're
Moore,
just blowing it all up. But then they're going to want some.
He just had a big game.
Yeah.
Right? You mentioned he was hurt. I don't know if he got hurt later on in the game that I wasn't aware of, but he just had a monster game against Washington. So, I think they traded for him from Carolina, and I think they paid him, a pretty big contract. So
Moore had a groin injury, but so TBD of how severe that one is. But he did just have a big game, and of course, like you said,
Chicago's trying to build too. So they're not in a position to start just giving away young talent.
And Miami, for example, when you're talking about Waddle, they're struggling right now. They lost Tyreek Hill. If they are going to be moving a player like that, they're going to want a lot in return if they're going to be saying, okay, we're blowing this up, we're starting over. So all these things to be considered. How much are the Giants willing to move off of to do that for a, kind of a year stopgap type of a.
If you really want to you want to open the floodgates, we're on the street as Garrett Wilson might not be too happy.
Right? I mean, hey, listen, that would be an easy move.
There is no.
He just signed an extension there too.
Yeah, he just signed a big contract, but I know that they're kind of in shambles right now.
Yeah,
so.
Or Chris Olave, another name that you hear, and you hear all these names, but it's like just because there's interest, and just because there's curiosity, doesn't mean it's going anywhere, right? It's like just because just because you both swipe the same way and get a match on the apps doesn't mean you're going on a date. I don't know. We're just, we're doing the most with the analogies today. All right, Giants fans, run or walk with Giants legends. The Giants Foundation will host a 5K race and kids run presented by Quest on Sunday, October 26th at 9 a.m. at MetLife Stadium. Net proceeds will benefit the Giants Foundation, and all participants will receive a commemorative T-shirt plus After the race, stay for a post-race festival with appearances by Giants legends and a live DJ. Register now at giants.com/5K. The Giants Foundation is a 501c3 nonprofit corporation. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head back to the phone lines. Got another Kevin. This one's Coach Kevin from Arizona. Coach, good to hear from you again. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Coach, welcome back.
Hey, thank you. This will be a short one today.
We'll see.
I hope you guys,
We'll see.
What a great week.
Wait, we got to
What a
get the
great week,
whiteboard. Let's get the whiteboard out, Coach. What we got?
Yeah,
No whiteboard. No
Oh.
whiteboard. I won't put you through that again. Never.
Oh.
But I do want to say that what a great week, huh? What a great week with all the buzz. I can't even open my phone without seeing pop-ups on Instagram with Jackson Dart and Ken Scadaboo. It's just unbelievable. It's everywhere.
Yeah.
Kevin, let me just say
I do
this
have a
too.
question.
I think Jackson Dart and Cam Scadaboo, they're going to be the number 1 and number 2 Halloween costumes
Yeah.
coming up in a couple weeks.
Oh, yeah,
Like,
that's a couple's
yeah.
costume right there. Yeah.
I can believe. Yeah, I agree. I did want to say maybe you could answer this, Shaun. I noticed in the preseason there was a lot of little flip outs passes to Cam and the backs, and I haven't really seen a lot of that. Do you think against this Denver defense with all these sacks that they are producing, do you think it might be a good idea to come out now and maybe throw in a few screen passes? I mean, real screen passes where the linemen get out in front and then dump it off to the backs. To help quell that pass rush of Denver's and maybe slow them down a little bit.
Kevin, I'm showing
showing
Madelyn my note that I wrote on the front page
Yep.
of my matchup.
He actually has it right here with a star that says screen game is crucial.
Yeah, that's an asterisk.
Yeah.
Well, that's same but different.
Asterisk star, I get you.
Potato, tomato.
Yeah, so I'm with you,
Okay,
Kevin.
well,
That 100% was my first thought as I'm looking at Denver and how they're leading the NFL in sacks.
Yeah.
They've got 30 already. Nick Bonito leads the NFL in quarterback pressures as well. So right out of the gate, my thought is, hey, screen game should be optimal. Like you want to slow them down, give them something to think about, and help your quarterback out.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad we think alike, Shaun.
Amen.
Great minds, Coach
honest.
Kevin.
That was it. That's my only thing to call about. No X's and O's today. That was my only thing that popped into my mind
I love
watching the Denver defense.
Yeah.
Kevin,
Listen,
you know what?
Stamp of
down.
approval right here, Kevin.
Madelyn, we were talking about this in the preseason.
Yeah.
You know, the Buffalo game, I remember like Mike Kafka, it was his first game back calling plays and he was on the sideline and we were kind of talking about, all right, that's going to be new for them. And I think they did it because they wanted him to be more interactive with the quarterbacks in person. But in that game, there was a ton of screens.
Well, and then in the beginning
it looked
part
like
of
it was definitely a point of emphasis going into that. Like, let's run a lot of screens.
And it was effective, and we saw a lot of screens run in the preseason. And Kevin, to your point, they were doing it well, but then the beginning games of the regular season, I don't think they threw a single screen pass in quite a few of those.
Like the one that I think they threw a couple to Theo.
Maybe.
A tight end screen, but
Yeah.
they kind of got away with it. That was turbo, I think.
Yeah, I think
in that game.
with Russ, they had pretty much just check downs and things like that with him scrambling or trying to get out of the pocket, and it was kind of just a dump off. But I mean, an actual. I would just love to see just an absolute screen where 2 or 3 linemen get out, let the penetration come, let's get those linemen out and flip it over to the backs. I think that would be that's going to be very successful.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it. We'll see if they
All
draw
right,
it up. Coach
that's
Kevin,
it.
thanks so much for the call.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about that, and to your point too, you definitely had that asterisk. Screen game is crucial.
Well done.
Asterisk. It's a hard word to say.
Yeah, I feel like I used to always say asterisk, and then I realized that it's a risk, asterisk.
Yeah.
I guess if you pronounce it, like if you slow it down, if you say quick, asterisk, it sounds asterisk.
Star.
Screen game. Amen.
Screen game. Amen.
Let's do it.
Co-sign it right there. With another impactful draft and free agency class in the books, that means it's full steam ahead to the 2025 NFL season. Take your fandom to the next level with a Giants season ticket membership and catch all the action at MetLife Stadium with an exciting home schedule on the horizon. With the membership, you'll also stay connected to the club all year round, not just on game days, with exclusive member access and benefits. So to learn more about a New York Giants season ticket membership, visit giants.com/tickets. 201-939-4513. Back to the phones we go. Julian in Florida. What's up, Julian? You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun and Madelyn.
Madelyn, Shaun, how you guys doing?
Doing well.
Just like all the other colors, I got to keep this one short. Just trying to get you in for lunchtime. But I'll just want to say, number one, SOH, man, thank you so much for the champions, everything you brought in, and being our center and main protection for the GOAT. That would be Eli Manning. Number two, just one thing I wanted to throw out there. Shaun, we have a center that just went down. How hard is it for a backup center to really get that camaraderie going with a rookie quarterback of all things? If you want to just talk a little bit on points of that. I forget his name, the backup that's going to be starting, but
Austin
it doesn't
Schlottmann.
seem like. Yep. Did a pretty good job for the rest of the game, I will say that. But what goes into that, if you have any points on that. And also, just being down here in Miami, there's a lot of NFL players you meet, a lot of people that know NFL players. I'm not going to say any names, but I will say that there is it's like not name dropping, but you'll be able to get it pretty easily. There was a veteran quarterback that visited the facility this off season. Said that Dable has a beautiful football mind. Let's put it that way. But close friends with one of his friends, and something that was said in a short conversation, and I just want to see if, Shaun, you have any perspective on that, is that this playbook is extremely complicated. And I'm talking about the offensive playbook. I don't know about the defense. But just someone that, a veteran NFL quarterback came in, met everyone, and just things came out just saying, how complicated this offense is. I'm just wondering, and look, that just goes more to show, how great Jackson's doing with, if that's really the truth, right, of how offensively, complicated this thing is. But just for when we were doing bad, right, and we're all going out for Daboll's head and everyone's calling in and saying, oh, my God, we need to fire Daboll and all this stuff, is this the type of offense you normally see in the NFL? I'm sure, Shaun, I'm not sure if you've had a look at it, but is this something that is typical in the NFL, or is simplifying it something that's more of a trend, or just keeping these complicated option routes and whatnot? I don't know the details, but is that something that's typically trending in the NFL, or do you see more often that the the offense and the play calling is usually more simplified for it to be easier, to be more of a flow? I'm not sure if you understand what I'm asking, but hopefully you guys can break that down for me. I'll take it off the air so I don't get yelled at on teams over here. But thank you guys. Go Big Blue.
Thanks for calling in on your lunch break. I think, first of all, respect to Julian for doing his journalistic integrity right here. Sources say. Yeah. Sources in the building. I will co-sign, though. I remember when Allen Robinson was here last year, I was talking with him, and he actually said a similar thing. He said, this is a very complicated, it's not a simple offense. It's a very complicated offense. But I think to the point of, what Julian was saying about Coach Dable and how he implements it, it's important to recognize, too, that he does make it complicated, but he also curates it to his perceived strengths of his players. And if you notice how different the offense looked with Russ versus Dart, it's because Dable watched every snap Russ has taken, every snap Dart has taken, and has kind of done so accordingly to curate the offense to the strengths of his players. And it also kind of underscores the importance of him having his quarterback in there, a guy who he feels like, all right, you can speak my language, you can understand what I'm trying to do here, and let's do this thing together.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to this question. And offenses in the NFL, you have to be able to adapt to the players that you have. You can't just have a cookie-cutter offense and say, hey, look, we're going to plug guys in, and this is the way it's going to happen. But I know for Dable's offense, one of the biggest things is the receivers and the quarterbacks have to be on the same page. They have to see the same things. And, you can have a play called that is a man beater, and, that play is you have different routes for man concepts. So if you get man, this is what you're doing. And all of a sudden you come out and it's zone. So now those routes have to convert, and you have to change them. And it can be, the depth can change, the entire route can change. And so the receivers have to see the same thing the quarterback's seeing, and now you have to be on the same page. So that's why you kind of see in the preseason hey, look, that guy, I thought he was running a go route, and he ran an out route. We saw that a couple times with both Russell, Jackson in the preseason. So those are all things that you've got to iron out in practice. But, I go back to, all right, when I came to the Giants in 2004, our offensive coordinator that year was John Huffnagel, and Kevin Gilbride was our quarterback coach. And the next year, Kevin Gilbride took over. But that offense really came from the same concept that the Patriots were running, and Dable was in New England, and so you kind of look at that offense that they were running, and it's similar to that. I think Dable has done a good job. I don't know if people remember this, but he was in Buffalo, then he went down to Alabama and coached down there. He was the offensive coordinator for a year down in Alabama, and they won a national championship. And what he learned down there was the RPO was big in college, and so now he was like, you know what, I'm going to bring that and as part of my offense. But you can only do that if you have a quarterback that can run the RPO. If you have a quarterback that's never done that, you're not going to ask a guy that is in year 10 of his career to now all of a sudden try to learn a new trick. So I think that's something that he took with him to Buffalo. And when they drafted Josh Allen, it was, hey, this guy can run the RPO. He can do all of these things. I can use his legs, and I can create quarterback design runs and find different ways to attack the defense. So those are all things that I think he loved about Daniel Jones when he came here and he took this job. And now he's able to use some of those same concepts and some of those same plays. Look, when Jackson Dart came into the game, automatically his first start, you saw RPOs right out of the gate. And Jackson Dart does run a lot from the shotgun formation. So that's where he's comfortable. I think Dable has a good relationship with him, and he has always had a good relationship with his quarterbacks to just talk to them about, how are you seeing it? Are we seeing this the same way? And then Mike Kafka, let's put him into this category as well, because Mike Kafka was a former NFL quarterback. He played the position.
Yeah.
He played under Andy Reid, learned under Andy Reid. So
Coach
he has those
Patrick
concepts
Mahomes.
as well.
Yeah.
He was with Mahomes. So I think you've got a lot of really good minds, good football minds, and it's their job to come up with these concepts and to all of a sudden get these receivers to see it that same way. Get the quarterback, this is the way he sees it, and now everybody's on the same page. So it does take time to have that rhythm and to have that timing and that tempo. I think one of the biggest things that we didn't really address with that game against Philadelphia last week, Jackson Dart, he did not really have a full practice last week.
Right.
So now you've got some different players that are stepping up because guys are hurt, and he didn't have a chance to run any of those plays in practice.
Yeah, short week. They were all walkthroughs, yes.
So to go on a short week like that and to play well and to have that timing down, I think that's just indicative of, the athleticism that he has, the accuracy that he has, and his ability to process things. That was one of the things that Brian Dable, throughout that whole recruiting process and evaluating the quarterbacks that were coming out in this draft this year, it was Jackson Dart was heads above all the other quarterbacks in terms of processing and decision making, and how quickly he was able to see things, get the ball out.
Well,
and I think that's a big part of it.
And that's a deciding factor, too, that you notice with quarterbacks in the NFL that make it or don't, right? They have the talent, they have the ability, but how quickly can you make a decision and trust that decision? Because that split second of reading something and then thinking, is this the right choice or is this not? That slight hesitation is the difference between this and a completed pass right there. And, speaking of practice, too, first of all, to your point about how they had just walkthroughs last week, a lot of that, too, credit to these guys for kind of leaning on the chemistry built during the summer. And, Jackson Dart had a lot of reps with Lil Jordan Humphrey in training camp. The ability that the work that they got back then, that they were able to kind of build up and pick up where they left off. And then the confidence that Dart has in himself and in his teammates that kind of is felt that we hear these guys talk about. Is a great one. Now, speaking of practice, just an update. Head coach Brian Dable had his media availability while we were on the air. Confirmed John Michael Schmitz still in the concussion protocol, so he won't be practicing today. Austin Schlottman will be getting all the reps at center with the ones today, Wednesday. Demetrius Flanagan-Folds, Swayze Bozeman, linebackers still remain out. Darius Slayton, dealing with a hamstring, may or may not do some work. Likely will be practicing on the sideline, but can't expect a full practice. Will likely be listed as limited on the practice report today. And that's all the injury news that's fit to print out of Giants practice. And then Tay Banks, of course, not at practice today for personal reasons. Congratulations, Tay. He became a father to twins last night.
Wow, congratulations.
So congrats, Tay Banks. Cordell Flott likely getting all the work there in that corner position. The Giants have also kind of created a bit of cap space, restructuring Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland's contracts. So they've got a little bit of cap space to work with as the trade deadline approaches in about 3 weeks.
Yeah, a lot to unpack there. You mentioned Schlottman, and with JMS being in concussion protocol, we had a question about how does that change things when you have the backup center coming in and that relationship with the quarterback. It's definitely a challenge. The one thing that, the quarterback center exchange aspect of it, it's something that you are constantly practicing with both starting quarterbacks, with the backup quarterback. The backup center gets a lot of reps because it's got to be something that's automatic.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart is in shotgun a lot.
Well, this is actually a question I wanted to ask you. Jackson Dart is in shotgun a lot, obviously because Dart has a bit more of a comfort level in shotgun, right? As a center, does that matter? Like if you have a more comfort level of a player in shotgun versus right under center, how does that affect that chemistry? I mean, it's a two-way street, right? And people think about, this quarterback does better in shotgun, this quarterback does better under center. Well, what about how that center snaps better into shotgun, or
Yeah, it's different. When you're in shotgun, if it's a pass play, it's really not that different. But what can be challenging sometimes is when you're in shotgun and it's a run play because you're actually firing out. So a lot of times you'll have an errant shotgun snap on a run play because you're trying to, you're firing out or reaching right or reaching left, so you're moving differently than you would a pass play. But, when it comes to the shotgun, really the quarterback situation, the timing of it is the factor. It's not really the actual snap. Under center, every quarterback is different as far as how deep they get in with their hands and where they, where the pressure is. So you've got to really kind of get used to that. I think the one area where that shows up, the under center issues show up in short yardage and goal line situations. You see more quarterback center fumbles down on the goal line when you have a new center or a new quarterback, because now when you're down on the goal line, you're almost in a 4-point stance, you're even lower, and sometimes that ball you can kind of short arm it a little bit. So the quarterback, I used to always tell my quarterback, hey, if it's a goal line and I knew I had a big nose guard or I knew I was reaching, I'd say, hang with me a little bit. Make sure you get the ball. Don't come out quick and then now the ball's on the ground. So that's one factor. The biggest factor that is going to happen in this game, if Austin Schlottmann is in there at center, is they're going to be in silent count. I mentioned the crowd noise in Denver. The silent count is a rhythm, and when another center comes in, inevitably he has a different rhythm when it comes to the silent count. So you've got to be in tune with that.
Yeah.
Who does that affect? That actually impacts the tackles and even the tight ends more than anybody, because they're the ones that are they're looking in to see the quarterback come up, the center come up with his head, and then they have a timing. It can be 1,001, 1,002. You can go on silent 1, silent 2. So there is a rhythm that goes to that. Anytime you throw in a new center on silent count, there's going to be false starts. It happens because it's new, and that rhythm is thrown off. Now, one thing the Giants do, and a lot of teams are doing this now, is the guard is actually the one in silent count that kind of looks back, and then he kind of signals to the center, like taps him, hey, here we go, it's time to snap. When I played and I was center, I was the one looking between my legs. I wanted to make sure I knew, all right, quarterback signals, hey, it's time to go, and then we come up, make our calls. But that is something that is definitely going to be an issue. I know it's something they're going to practice every single day this week, because one of the reasons why Denver has such great quarterback pressure and why they're leading the NFL in sacks is when they have been at home and it's third down, they are jumping the count. And there have been at least, I went through and watched every single sack that Jonathan Cooper has had this year, and Benito. And when I look at Benito, half of his sacks were kind of coverage sacks or hustle sacks, as I call them. But the amount of third down sacks, Benito has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sacks on third down. So half his sacks are on third down. Jonathan Cooper, every one of his sacks are on third or fourth down. So that just lets you know where the pressure is coming from. They are jumping the count and just kind of writing them down. Like it looks like half of Jonathan Cooper's sacks were all in silent count. So that's something that rears its ugly head. When you're in third and long and silent count, that's when you're at your most disadvantageous position as an offensive lineman.
Yeah. Well, and to the point, too, it's, fortunate. I mean, nobody wants to see anybody go down with injury, but JMS gets hurt at home. Schlottmann is able to come in, and it was a really clean transition. You're not noticing. Nobody's saying his name on the broadcast, and that's, I feel like, the sign of a good offensive lineman play is that you're not calling out, look at what he's doing here. Getting those reps in the game, and then having essentially a full week of practice, possibly, if JMS is still in the concussion protocol, which, these things take time, and they're all individually, you can't anticipate how long a concussion is going to last, especially when, it was one that caused a nosebleed of sorts. But getting that week of reps in practice, you've got to think, okay, that's going to be some good, valuable.
Yeah, that helps.
As opposed to
just getting thrust
into the action in the middle of a game in Denver on the road. Amidst it, you've got, like you mentioned, this coaching staff, this team is well aware of that element, that monster in the room to prepare for. So it's like, all right, this is going to be the point of focus this week.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, that's the ideal situation, to do it in the second quarter and have to go in there and just kind of wing it, and everybody's got to adjust on the fly. That definitely is a bigger challenge. So
yeah,
that's something that I know they're working on. And to be honest with you, when something like this happens, you stay after practice. And the tackles, I would stay out if this, even if it was a new tackle. Sometimes the opposite happens, right? So you got a new tackle in there, and you're on the road and silent count, and it's like, hey, let's just stay after practice and let's work the silent count a little bit so that you are confident that you have the rhythm and you know when it's time to look from the ball to your defender and when it's time to move.
Absolutely. Giants fans, the Giants official connected TV streaming app Giants TV brings original video content and game highlights on demand and direct to Big Blue fans. Giants TV is free on Apple TV, Roku, and Amazon Fire TV, and on the Giants mobile app. 201-939-4513 is the phone number. Let's head back to the phone lines. Shane in New York. Shane, welcome to the show. You're on Big Blue Kickoff Live with Shaun O'Hara and Madelyn Burke.
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Doing well. How are you, Shane?
Doing well. So my reason for calling in, and actually it's because Shaun is there, and he's around the same age as me. And at one point he was talking about the monster truck that the claws came out of the
animal
wheel. The animal, right? So for Cam Scattaboo, ever since he's been around, I've thought of the character from He-Man, Ram Man, because he's exactly the same. Like, he's got that short little body.
Little stout.
You remember him?
No neck. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so I thought, why not just call him Ram Cam?
I like that one. I like that one. Although on the post-game show this week, Shaun came up with a pretty great one, too.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, did he?
There's 1,000 nicknames right now for Cam Scattaboo. He went to Arizona State, and they are the Sun Devils. So I was calling him the Tasmanian Sun Devil, because
that's a good
like
one.
the Tasmanian Devil, he just spinning around like a tornado and causing havoc everywhere, and just leaves a trail of disaster in its wake.
Yes, exactly. But yes, ever since he came onto the scene, I just always pictured that Ram Man character from He-Man. So I figured,
I like it.
As Shaun's from the same era as me with He-Man and stuff like that, he'd understand.
I love the He-Man comparison, and they are the masters of the universe right now.
That is right. That is right. So yeah, I mean, that's basically all I wanted to say. But very excited for the future for the team. It seems to be looking up.
Things are looking bright.
Agreed.
Thanks for the call, Shane, and thanks for the good vibes. I like, there's some players that lend themselves to nicknames pretty well, and Cam's one of them, and I think he's got several, and that's a lot of fun. And then there's some players that are a little bit harder to pinpoint a nickname for, but then they come through organically. I know we've been given a lot of love to the offensive side of the ball, right?
Yeah.
We've got a lot of love. I mean, Jackson Dart and Cam Scattaboo both nominated for Rookie of the Week this week. 5 combined touchdowns from the rookies against the defending Super Bowl champs is great. But I want to give a little bit of love before this show ends to a rookie on the defensive side of the ball. Earlier in the show, a caller called in and said, hey, you know what? Abdul Carter's only had half a sack this season. I want to see him get a full sack. Sure, that is something, and I think a sack is really a definitive stat when it comes to defense, especially for the casual fan who's watching and wants to see that get to the quarterback, take him down. But I just would like to remind you all that he's got 16 quick quarterback pressures this season. That's second in the NFL to Nick Bonito, who's got 17. Nick Bonito, of course, with the Broncos this weekend, we'll be seeing him. He's got 26 total quarterback pressures this season. That's tied for 7th most in the NFL, not among rookies, in the National Football League. And half a sack, 8 quarterback hits, a tackle for loss. He's doing things. He's applying pressure in ways that are facilitating the pressure on the quarterback and that are disrupting the quarterback. And yes, maybe it's not the sack numbers. I know going into this season, Abdul Carter even had his sights set on saying, I want to have some LT level sack numbers my rookie year. But sacks are not the only important stat, and this man is being a disruptor on the defensive side of the ball. And I just want to give a little bit of credit to some people who might be saying, well, wait, what is Abdul Carter doing? He's doing a lot. He's doing a lot out here.
Yeah, he's been there. You know, the tough thing with sacks is everything kind of has to go right in order to get a sack. And, you know, quarterback pressures, I think, are actually more indicative of your win ability.
Yeah.
Because pressures, you can beat the offensive tackle or the guard. You're on your way to the quarterback to make a sack, and the ball comes out. So now it's just a quarterback hit. And you did everything right. The quarterback just got rid of the ball.
Yeah.
You could also get stymied at the line of scrimmage, and you're just kind of mulling around in there, and the quarterback decides to run, and now all of a sudden he runs by, and you get what I call a garbage sack.
Yeah.
Like you didn't actually beat the offensive lineman, but the quarterback happened to kind of run into you, and now you get a sack. So sacks can be misleading at times, but I think the pressures are absolutely indicative of how impactful you are. So Abdul Carter has been impactful, and there have been times when he beat his guy, and he was on his way to get a sack, and Burns beat him to it.
Right.
You know, or Kayvon Thibodeau beat him to it. So,
and
it looks like the defensive line are meeting at the quarterback, and it's kind of like the first one to touch him gets the credit.
Yeah, and some of these, Burns has 7 sacks on the season already, but some of these sacks don't happen without the combined pressure, like you mentioned. The quarterback is kind of running from one to the other, and you know, Burns just gets there first. And no disrespect to Burns' ability right here. He has been having himself a season, and he has been playing at a whole nother level. But again, it's such a collaborative effort. And there have been people who have said things to me about, why hasn't he had more sacks this season? That's, while it is a defining stat on the defensive side of the ball, it's not the defining stat. And it is one that I think we've kind of come to lean on a bit. You know, even in talking about Denver's defense, the first thing we talk about is how they lead the NFL in sacks, because yes, that is a significant stat, but it is not the only one in terms of how you affect a quarterback's play. And in some cases, it's perhaps not the most definitive one.
I feel like it's the sexy stat.
It is.
You know, it's kind of like, oh, hey, look at this. It's very glamorous.
Yeah.
But
when you kind of dance after.
When you look kind of past all of that, past the cosmetic aspect of the sack, it's, you know, the pressure rate is a big factor. You know, and I think when you look at a defensive line that has, you know, multiple guys that are getting after the quarterback, you're kind of sharing the sacks amongst the group. And, you know, Denver is doing the same thing. You know, when you have, you know, multiple guys that can get to the quarterback and create pressure and be disruptive, then the sacks kind of, you know, they get spread around a little bit. So Abdul Carter, look, his sacks are going to come. You know, there's a saying that sacks always kind of come in bunches. So, you know, you can kind of hit a dry spell. You can have a couple games where all of a sudden they're just popping up. But it is definitely an impactful stat. But I think the pressures are more indicative of the production.
Yeah, YouTube commenters agree. Senior Chang says his sacks will come, not worried about it. McCann, Cornell, Carter doing solid so far. Pete Cho, Abdul, big game stat-wise coming. I can feel it. I'm here for it. And then we also got some comments too. Cam Scatteroo, the Juggernaut, from John Williams. Kevin Campbell saying, Cannonball Cam. We love a good nickname. We got time for one more call, 201-939-4513. Let's head back to the phone lines. Pat in Florida. Pat, thanks for calling in to Big Blue Kickoff Live on a Wednesday. You're on the show with Shaun O'Hara and Madelyn Burke.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Go Big Blue. Yeah, just really excited right now, obviously, with the young guys. You know, one of the things I wanted to kind of ask was, I mean, what is our – I wasn't going to be about the receiving corps, but I think the biggest thing is with, especially Shaun, how do you feel about the O-line going against this pass rush for Denver?
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a big factor in this game. Third and long is not where you want to be in any game, but being on the road in Denver, the crowd noise is a factor. You're going to be in silent count, and both of these rushers, Nick Bonito and Jonathan Cooper, they are in a race. They are in a race to get to the quarterback, and I tell you what, they're running and sprinting to a spot. They both do a great job with their speed rush, so that's going to be a huge factor in this game. How do you slow them down? Well, look, you can chip with your running back, and you can tell your tackle, hey, we're going to give you chips on the outside to help out with that speed rush. You know, we talked about earlier too, the screen game is a way that anytime you're playing a defense that has guys that are just teeing off on you, get the screen game going early and often, give them something else to think about. And now they think, oh, I got a free rush at the quarterback, or I'm going to get a pressure, and you kind of throw the ball behind them and kind of burn them with some big plays. So those are big factors. I think draw plays as well. If you've got defensive ends that are getting up the field, you run a couple draw plays and kind of sneak in right behind them. Those are all things you can kind of combat with that. But the best way to do it is be productive on first down. You know, if you can run the ball well on first and second down, if you can be in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and 5 or less situations, that helps get the ball out quicker. And so it's, you know, really it's a collective effort to do that. But no doubt Andrew Thomas, look, he's been playing lights out since he came back. He's you know, picked up right where he left off in his Pro Bowl, in his last Pro Bowl year. And, you know, he's been one of the best tackles in the league. He hasn't given up a sack. I don't know if he's given up a quarterback hit yet this season. So this will be his biggest test thus far. And same on the other side, Jermaine Illuminor.
Yep.
You know, they're two different style tackles. Andrew Thomas is very athletic, great feet, great hands. Illuminor doesn't have the same athletic feet, but he does a good job in just kind of using his body to kind of absorb the rusher. So he's going to have his work cut out for him on the right side.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks for the call, Pat. And to your point, Shaun, too, I mean, starting strong, not just on first down, but in the game. I mean, you know, Dable talked about earlier today in his media availability that, you know, having a touchdown on the first drive in 3 straight games is so imperative for this team. Also, just credit to the Giants, not just third down conversions, but last week there were some long third down conversions, too, and some of which Jackson Dart kind of saw the play break down and was able to make lemonade out of that. So being able to do that, something that, you know, third down was a point of struggle for the Giants in games before. The team is trending in the right direction. The arrow is pointing in the right direction. Can it continue to do so against a very tough opponent in a very tough environment on the road in Denver?
Yeah, Jackson Dart, he converted a 3rd and 8. That throw to Theo Johnson,
for 22?
It was like a 22-yard play, and he was under duress.
Yeah.
You know, that was a really good, like we were talking about, quick decision-making throw. But yeah, he got out of that opening drive touchdown. That was third down.
Yeah, there were some plays that in real time watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this one's falling apart, and then all of a sudden I'm like, how do you do that?
Yeah, that first drive, you know, 3rd and 12 was the throw to little Jordan Humphrey. That kind of got the crowd going, and that kind of kept that first drive alive. That was a 34-yard play.
Yeah.
So those are all good things. You know, and I think Jackson Dart understands that, look, third down, you're going to see some different things. Like that's kind of when you have to elevate your play and just kind of make stuff happen. Absolutely.
And you know what? We are looking forward to it. Back on the field Sunday in Denver on the road. It's 4:05 kickoff. So a little late afternoon Giants action on Sunday. And we're looking forward to seeing it. And then Shaun and I will be doing postgame. Yeah? Are you in this week, or is it Amani this week?
I think it's Toomer.
All right. Well, Amani, Toomer, and I will be doing the post-game show. But Shaun will be there in spirit.
I'll be watching.
You know. And we'll be here next Wednesday. But we got a whole slate, a week of shows on Big Blue Kickoff Live every day, Monday through Friday, 12:30 Eastern, right here on the studio. Fellas, I forget who's on Thursday, but you know what? It's going to be another great show tomorrow and Friday. And I'm just saying words now. So you know what? Let's just call it a show. That's a wrap for a Wednesday edition of Big Blue Kickoff Live, brought to you by Cadillac, the official luxury automobile of the New York Giants. BBK is part of the Giants podcast platform everywhere and giants.com/podcasts. What do we got?
Thursday night.
Oh, Thursday night football. Also, too, Battle of the Unks. You got Aaron Rodgers and Joe Flacco. The AARP Bowl. Is that rude? Listen, these are the seasoned quarterbacks of the AFC North.
They call this the Prostate Bowl.
Yeah, exactly. Cough.
How old are you?
Yeah. Anyway, Thursday night football will be good this week. We got a lot of great football on deck, and we got a lot of great Giants content right here on Big Blue Kickoff Live, 12:30 Eastern. Monday through Friday, every day. That's a show for the Super Bowl champion, Shaun O'Hara. I'm Madelyn Burke. We'll see you next time.